And good evening, everyone. I'm Doug Proffitt, and we welcome you as WHAS 11 News is very proud tonight to continue our long-standing heritage of in-depth political coverage. We are bringing you this live, hour-long U.S. Senate debate with the 6 Democratic candidates heading into the May primary. Our debate tonight is sponsored by Simmons College of Kentucky. The school here in Louisville is also hosting a debate watch party on their campus right now, and we thank them for their partnership and enthusiasm for this event. Some late news today, by the way, in this race. The candidate Grant Short of Owensboro, Kentucky, dropped out because he now has a full-time job with the Bernie Sanders campaign. We are ready to get started. Right now, the candidates will make their own short introductions, and we're doing it alphabetically. So we begin with the mayor of Lexington, Jim Gray. Thank you for coming, Mr. Gray.
Thank you, Doug, and thanks to Simmons College as well. I'm a 7th-generation Kentuckian. I grew up in Glasgow in southern Kentucky. And my father passed away when I was just 19. Along with the rest of my family, we came together to save the family business. And over time, we grew. We grew to where today we're the largest builder of manufacturing, advanced manufacturing plants in the country. More than 20,000 people a day walk through the doors of plants built by Gray Construction. Over time, I had the chance to be introduced to public service, and I became mayor. And in that role as mayor, I took my private sector experiences and I translated that into budgets that were deficits, into budgets that were balanced, and then we created surpluses.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. I appreciate it. With 6 candidates, we're going to keep this quick, and they all have agreed to do so. We thank them for that. Let's go to Rory Houlihan saying hello. He's from Winchester, Kentucky. Rory.
My name is Rory Houlihan. Students of Simmons College, do you want to be a superhero? Become a scientist. You'll do incredible things with your life, and you might just save this world. Done any research in science? I have. Wrote any policy papers? I have. On nuclear, clean coal, hybrid engines, solar, and terraforming. How about those fire, flood, and freak weather nows? Been to any climate change webinars? I have. Let's talk about solutions. We ain't got all day. I've studied economics, and I see a lot of ticking time bombs there, too. From death to us parts, student loans, to minimum wage, to right-to-work laws. My name is Rory Houlihan, and I am the unknown hero.
All right, thank you, Mr. Houlihan. Jeff Kender from Phelps, Kentucky, Pike County in eastern Kentucky. Thanks for coming.
I'm happy to be here. I'm a 40-year-old single father. I'm a United Steelworker. I presently work at a factory right now. I'm a former teacher, former security guard, former janitor, former fast food worker, former landscaper, former construction worker. You name it, I've pretty well done it. And that's why we call our campaign the Common Man Campaign. I've got in this race because the people want a common person just like them representing them in the United States Senate. And people of Louisville and people all over Kentucky, you've got your candidate and me. We're the Common Man Campaign, and we're fighting for the people of Kentucky. Thank you.
Jeff, thank you. Ron Leach, Brandenburg, Kentucky, from Meade County. Good evening.
Good evening. 1992 was the last time that a Democrat won a U.S. Senate race in this state. 24 years have passed, and we've seen a lot of changes. We see a shrinking middle class. We see declining wages. We see a country more divided and polarized than ever, and we see too many of our fellow Kentuckians being left behind. I'm Ron Leach, and I've served our country for nearly 3 decades in the U.S. military. I've served 4 combat tours between Iraq and Afghanistan. I've seen the greatness and the power of our country, and I've seen the limits of power. I've seen through the U.S. Army that we leave no one behind, and for us to complete the mission, we must all pull together. I'm running for U.S. Senate because I know we are better and that our best days are in front of us.
Thank you very much, Ron. Tom Rechtenwald is here. He's from Louisville. Tom?
Thank you, Doug. Yes, it's been 24 years since we elected a Democrat to the U.S. Senate. It's been said that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So if we follow the same formula and select the highest-ranking Democrat office holder who's willing to run and throw money toward his campaign, that we're probably going to lose again. No offense to Jim Gray. Most would agree that Congress is broken, and the biggest reason it's broken is because of big money. Big money donors expect something in return, and if they don't get it, they won't continue to donate. And if we elect candidates who collect the most money, then they're going to owe money to their debtors. Our campaign won't accept any money. Visit us at nevermealwaysus.com.
Thank you, Mr. Rechtenwald. And Celis Wilder comes to us from Frankfurt. Celis.
Thank you. I'm running to challenge a broken status quo so that we can all live in a healthy Kentucky. I grew up on a small farm in Henry County. We grew up poor. We drank our own well water and grew our own food and understood the connection between the health of our land and the health of our lives. I live in Frankfurt now with my wife and our 2 kids, where I earned a reputation as Frankfurt's mayor pro tem for accountability, sustainability, and transparency. And we also turned deficits into surpluses. Since then, I've helped protect Kentuckians from the Bluegrass Pipeline, working with a diverse coalition. I'm running because I believe in a nation that values the lives of real people more than we value power, power and profits. I'm just trying to be the candidate that I've always wished I could vote for. And we need to give a voice to the Kentuckians that have been abandoned by our political system. And I want your vote on May 17th.
All right, thank you to the 6 of you for your introductions. Asking the questions tonight, WHAS 11's political editor, Chris Williams, the Courier-Journal's chief political reporter, Joe Girth, and WHAS 11's Renee Murphy. We're also going to have questions from Simmons College students. They are here in the studio with us tonight. Each candidate has 45 seconds to respond. Now, Jim Gray opened first, so Chris Williams will ask Rory Houlihan the very first question tonight. Chris.
First question, maybe the obvious one on the minds of many in Kentucky. Why do you think you can beat Rand Paul?
Why can't I beat Rand Paul? I think a 5th grader can beat Rand Paul right now. He spent most of the time running for president and very little time doing what he promised to do. And he's basically followed the company line or the libertarian line and hasn't done much. We need some people to do something. Again, I'm running because I see ticking time bombs that have been put into place, and like minimum wage, if we do not increase the minimum wage, well, understand, all recessions start with the poor and end with the poor. The poor are the ones who basically have 100%, what do we say?
Thank you, Mr. Houlihan. Jeff Kinder, you get to answer the same question.
I am the only candidate that can beat Rand Paul. There's a couple things that me and Rand Paul agree on. We are both pro-Second Amendment, and we both have an all-above energy approach. And he also says don't lock people up for small amounts of marijuana, and I'll just say go ahead and legalize it. Jim Gray is the establishment pick. He has no chance. Ron Leach ran for Congress in 2014, lost by nearly 40 points. Celis Wilder is the environmentalist. He has no shot. You're going to have to be able to reach the middle and get the crossover vote. And I know that I can reach over and get the crossover vote. I'm a pro-union candidate, and I am a union member myself, so we're going to get that vote in November also.
Thank you, Mr. Kinder. Ron Leach?
Picking a nominee who can beat Rand Paul is the key of this process. We have 1 month to make that decision. I'm the only candidate that can stand on a stage against Rand Paul with greater knowledge of national security, foreign policy. A background as an experienced medical provider, former agriculturist, former educator, someone who knows what it takes to raise a family, someone who knows what is truly required to leave no one behind.
Tom Rechtenwald.
I'll just make my answer short and sweet. Rand Paul is going down. He spent the last 4 years wanting to be president, and he's totally forgotten about the citizens of Kentucky. And it's safe to assume that if he wins again, he's going to spend the next 4 years running to be a president. We need somebody who is from Kentucky, who lives in Kentucky. I have never lived farther than 10 miles from the spot I was born right here in Louisville. I like to say that my feet are buried knee-deep in Kentucky soil. I'm proud to be Kentuckian, and I can represent Kentuckians far better than Rand Paul can. Thank you.
All right, giving some time back. Celis Wilder.
You know, if we want to compete in November, then we're going to need a candidate who can fire up the Democratic base. And we keep fielding statewide candidates who compete with Republicans to see who can be the most conservative and who can embrace big business the most and who can be the most Republican. We keep losing these elections as a result every time, and yet we keep trying the same thing over and over, and there's no reason to think that that's magically going to work this year. I'm trying to challenge conventional wisdom within this party that I love, because our only hope in November is with a candidate who can actually lean into Democratic values and fire up the Democratic base. instead of running away from it. I realize that an authentic progressive campaign might be a long shot in Kentucky, but I think it's the only shot we've got at taking down Rand.
Jim Gray, you get to finish up round one.
You know, everyone in the world wants a good job, and a job gives purpose and meaning in life. Now, as far as I know, Rand Paul has not created the first job in his career. In my career, I've created thousands of jobs, first in the private sector through our company, where more than 20,000 people a day walk through the doors of plants built by Gray Construction. And in my role as mayor, more than 20,000 jobs created in the last 4 years. Now, what's important is jobs, jobs, jobs. Until we have our economy strong, until the middle class is rising and growing middle class, then we're not going to have the strength among our people to move us forward as we have historically in America.
All right, we begin round two with Courier-Journal's Joe Girth, and the question goes first to Jeff Kender.
Mr. Kender, Democrats have a damaged brand in Kentucky. We've seen that with losses in several Senate races, the governor's race. As the state skews more and more conservative, we've got Bernie Sanders pushing Democrats nationally more to the left. How do you differentiate yourself from the national Democrats, or do you need to win this race?
I consider myself an old school Democrat, FDR, JFK, LBJ Democrat. I'm for a war on poverty, not a war on drugs. I think we need to create jobs and not just sit and have gridlock in Washington. But I'm not all gun-ho on the Second Amendment like our national party leaders are in Washington. And also I have an all-the-above energy approach. And I'm the only candidate on the stage tonight that's been talking about having a hemp industry. Hemp produces over 25,000 objects. 1 acre of hemp produces as much paper as 4 acres of trees, so that's pretty green to me.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Ron Leach of Brandenburg, Kentucky.
Well, I'm not running away from being a Democrat. Often I get the question of, you're a combat veteran, former Green Beret, and you're a Democrat, and some folks seem to see a contradiction there. When I look at it, I see my fellow soldiers, men and women in arms, when they come back to the U.S., they should have someone fighting for them to help them earn a living wage. They should have someone fighting for them to have access to affordable health care for them and their families. They should have someone fighting for them to create opportunities and make sure that we have a Kentucky and America that works for all of us again, rather than diminishing few. That's what Democrats do. I'm proudly running as a Democrat, and I will not run away from that label.
Tom Rechtenwald, your response?
I'm proud to say that I voted for Barack Obama twice, and I would vote for him again if I could. And I also like to say that I'm going to support the Democratic candidate for president no matter who she is. Having said that, I'll also support Bernie if he does come out of that race. But again, I'm a Democrat. I believe in the principles. Celis said it right. We need to energize the base. The reason why we have a Republican sitting in our governor's chair right now is only because Democrats did not come out to vote in the numbers they should have. So again, I'm a Democrat through and through, and it bleeds right out of my heart. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Wilder, Frankfort.
So this is kind of the case that I was trying to make with my previous answer. This contest we keep having, where we compete with Republicans to see who can be the most Republican, the real shame of that is that continues to push the state further to the right, because we keep sending this message around the entire Commonwealth that those are the only values that even matter. And so I think the Democratic Party itself has to take some responsibility for that rightward shift. And that's one of the things I'm trying to do in this campaign, is actually unite a progressive voice in Kentucky and prove to the party that it is possible to lean into progressive values and still compete. And I realize that conventional wisdom says that isn't possible, but in all fairness, nobody's ever tried it before in my lifetime. And so this is a good opportunity to actually unite a progressive voice and to try to bring people together for the win.
Jim Gray, over to you.
You know, I think it's important for us to look at the history of politics and the history of the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party has been at the front edge of raising the economic boat always. After the Great Depression, the WPA program, raising the economic boat, raising the tide. After World War II, when we were coming out of World War II, it was all about infrastructure, all about investment. In the last few years, what Rand Paul has done is be against everything. He's been against raising the minimum wage. He has not been in favor of making the investments that we need in our country so that everyone has an opportunity for economic advancement.
Rory Houlihan, you're wrapping up round 2.
Fantastic. Folks, if you want to live like a Republican, you vote Democratic in this election. Why? Conservative values, their brand name. Let's see what their brand means. I've been in retail for about 17 years. There's 2 games that are played to make superior profits. There's the always lower price game and the superior goods game. Conservative values is always lower price. The Democratic Party is always better and better, superior goods. Let's see what the always lower price does. It goes after your wages with right-to-work laws that shrink your wages and shrink the demand and make everybody poor and poorer.
All right, thank you, sir. We begin round 3 now with WHAS 11's Renee Murphy, and the first question goes to Ron Leach. Renee?
Good evening. We've been monitoring social media over the past couple of days, getting questions from the public. And one question is, why are you running? Not what do you plan to do if you win, but why are you running?
I'm running because I'm tired of the ideological tantrums, the idea of partisanship ahead of people in Washington. I personally witnessed it while I was in Afghanistan, my second tour, where I had young troops getting ready to go out to combat missions every day that needed to be focused on mission, but they were distracted by the idea that government may shut down, the idea that our contractors might pull up stakes and abandon us, the idea that their families may not be paid simply because of ideological tantrums going on in Washington. It's time to start governing again, and our junior senator was at the heart of those tantrums and the dysfunction in Washington.
Tom Rechtenwald.
I am running because I believe that we should elect a person of good character before we tend to vote for people who make a lot of promises that they're not going to be able to keep. Again, I'll go back to the power of the big money. As long as we let that happen, it really doesn't matter which one of us gets elected. If we haven't done something about the power of that big money, it's going to be fruitless anyway. Mitch McConnell has been the biggest constructionist over the last number of years, and we need to do something about that. If I were in the audience and I were looking up here and I were a woman or a minority, I think I would be offended. I mean, it's absurd that we don't have anything but white men up here, and I will work hard with those kind of groups to make sure that this doesn't happen again the next time we have a Senate election.
Celeste Wilder, your answer?
Well, you know, Kentucky is one of the unhealthiest places in America. We have epidemic rates of cancer, diabetes, heart disease. Louisville is the 10th most polluted city in America and the 6th most segregated. And it's no coincidence that the industrial pollution that's killing us, like in Flint, Michigan, is heavily centered in poor areas. This isn't happening in Martha's Vineyard. It's happening in West Louisville. It's happening in eastern Kentucky. And we're not going to solve any of these problems until we acknowledge the realities of that situation. You know, the problem is that our leaders on both sides continue to value power and profits more than the lives of real people. So I'm here to challenge that paradigm, put people first, and create sustainable economies in our depressed communities so that we can all enjoy a healthy, productive lives together.
Jim Gray?
Well, it's often said that past performance is the best indicator of future performance. I'm running because of the experience that I've had both in the private sector and the public sector. I'm running because of a record. I'm running on a record of having created thousands of jobs in Kentucky, good-paying jobs, having created and built a business, a great business that's recognized across America. And I'm running because I have the public sector experience of taking a city that was in a deficit position, translating that into 4 years of surpluses, balancing a budget, and dealing with problems all across our city that have saved us over $100 million in the last 4 years.
Roy Houlihan.
I see a lot of, while I'm running, I see a lot of ticking time bombs, from debt to us part student loans that promises to undermine our financial systems, to minimum wage, which is in bad need of being increased, to right-to-work laws, which are undermining our economic recovery, to weather nows being a catalyst which will wreck and ruin our local communities with fire, floods, and freaks. I am running because I have solutions for those, and I plan on putting them in.
Jeff Kinder from Pike County.
I chose to run back in November. I was tired of going to my friend's home and seeing that they had nothing to eat, and hearing them talk about not having no money to buy their kids anything for Christmas. I'm in this war to fight for everyone, the working people, and just everyone out there in Kentucky. And we need someone that isn't holding to special interest and doesn't get their money from big donors. Just a common, regular person. That's what I am. But poverty and the war on the middle class and watching my friends move off and not have heat and not have electricity, that was one of my reasons for getting into this race.
All right, 3 rounds of questions so far. We're going to take one break in this debate. It's coming up now, and right after this, questions from the students of Simmons College coming right up.